Hey, que la que hay, mi gente? It's Rocky here from SpeakSpanishFaster.com. And have you ever been in a situation where your head spins when you hear a native speaker speaking Spanish? Because even when, let's say, you watch a video or a show or a movie with subtitles, you can see the words, but it doesn't sound like those are the words that are being said. And if that's how difficult it is understanding Spanish when you can see the words, imagine how difficult it can be when there is no text available. If this has ever happened to you, it's not your fault. There's actually a reason this happens. It's called la sinalefa in Spanish or sinalofa in English. The sinalofa is a poetic figure that occurs in Spanish when a word ending with a vowel is followed by another word that begins with a vowel or with an H, which, remember, in Spanish is a silent letter, so it's not pronounced. Now, in these cases, when speaking, the phenomenon of the sinalofa occurs when these consecutive vowels come together to form what sounds like a single word. Let's look at a few examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the sentence regular. So, ese formulario está en mi escritorio. Now, the sinalofa, you can see formulario está en is one word. That's three words put in the one word, en mi escritorio, all right? Formulario está en mi escritorio. So instead of saying ese formulario está en mi escritorio, I would say ese formulario está en mi escritorio. So you can see how those words come together. Let's look at another example. No hace mucho frío para salir hacia la calle. So instead of no hace, it's no hace, no hace, no hace mucho frío para salir instead of hacia la calle, hacia la calle, hacia la calle. La casa te ha quedado hermosa. La casa te ha, instead of te ha quedado hermosa, quedado hermosa. So notice how those go together. And the reason this is very difficult to hear and understand it when you hear it is, for example, in Caribbean Spanish, like Puerto Rican Spanish, why a lot of people have trouble understanding it is because along with putting the words together, we also cut parts of those words out. So I put a third example here to show you how it would sound if it was like a Caribbean type of Spanish. So instead of la casa te ha quedado hermosa, it's la casa te ha quedado hermosa. So it would all be together. La casa te ha quedado hermosa. So notice how that sounded. And if you hear that quickly, it's even more difficult to understand. So you're getting it, right? Now, this phenomenon occurs exclusively when speaking, and it's one of the reasons why some people consider that Spanish is not a phonetic language. That is, that it is not pronounced as it is read. Of course, Spanish is a phonetic language, and the sinalofa, when speaking, is simply an oral phenomenon. In fact, most native Spanish speakers don't even realize that they are putting words together in that way, but it is something typical of Spanish that, as much as it can complicate the lives of the people who are studying it, it is also what gives it that unique musicality and that rhythm that makes it so beautiful. The sinalofa I showed you in the previous examples is the easiest to recognize because the union occurs between two words that end and begin with two different vowels. But there are two other types of sinalofas. The next one is when the last vowel of a word is the same as the first vowel of the word that follows. Words are usually joined by pronouncing this vowel only once. All right, it is more difficult to distinguish the end of one word and the beginning of the next because phonetically they merge. In the best of cases, the vowel of the sinalofa is pronounced with a very slight lengthening of the sound, but most of the time, especially if you're in a hurry, the second vowel, the one at the beginning of the second word, is omitted completely. Try to repeat these examples as fast as you can to experience how the vowels merge. Debes practicar para aprender a conducir. Now, notice how para and aprender are together. So instead of para aprender, you would hear para aprender. So it's like it's one word. Debes practicar para aprender a conducir. And if you're dealing with Spanishes like Caribbean Spanish, where we cut the words, we would get rid of the entire para, and it would be debes practicar para aprender a conducir. Debes practicar para aprender a conducir. So that's how you can see how it can become difficult to understand. Next example, mi madre está hablando por teléfono. Now see how these three words are together, but the first two, madre and está, they end with the same vowel and start with the same vowel. So, mi madre está hablando por teléfono. So instead of mi madre está hablando por teléfono, mi madre está hablando por teléfono. In the last example here, estaba acostada cuando llamaste. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. Notice how estaba acostada turns to one word here. And again, I want to demonstrate the difficulties in Caribbean Spanish or just any Spanish where we put the words together and we cut words at the same time or cut letters at the same time. So instead of estaba acostada cuando llamaste, it would sound like estaba acostada cuando llamaste. So estaba acostada cuando llamaste. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. So notice the difference. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. See how different that is? And that's why you can hear somebody say something and read it and say, that does not sound like he said that. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. Estaba acostada cuando llamaste. If you heard me say that and read that, you would be like, what in the world? So that's how you can see how it can be difficult to really understand different types of Spanishes because of this Sinalofa. But the most difficult case of Sinalofa occurs when not two, but three words come together. All right, this happens when between a word that ends with a vowel and another that begins with the same vowel, a monosyllabic word with a single vowel is interposed. So let's look at some examples. Aún no le he dicho a ella lo que pienso. Now notice, dicho a ella, these are three different words here, dicho a ella, but O-A-E, dicho a ella, dicho a ella, dicho a ella, dicho a ella. Notice how it's one word. Aún no le he dicho a ella lo que pienso. Aún no le he dicho a ella lo que pienso. So instead of he dicho a ella, dicho a ella, dicho a ella. All right, just practice the word, and then you can add the following words. He dicho a ella lo, he dicho a ella lo, he dicho a ella lo. And then you move your way until you can say the whole sentence. All right, let's look at another example. Me gustaría comer una pizza o una hamburguesa. Me gustaría comer una pizza, una pizza, una pizza, una pizza, una. So we put those three together. The last example, this is a pretty difficult one. Vamos a jugar a la pelota y al ajedrez. Vamos a jugar a la pelota y al ajedrez. Finally, it may happen that the vowel that sits between the words of the Sinalofa is the same. In these cases, if the person is not really speaking that fast, a slight extension of the vowel of the Sinalofa can be noticed. So, me he encontrado con ella a hablar sobre mi trabajo. That me he encontrado becomes me he encontrado, me he encontrado, me he encontrado. Con ella hablar, con ella hablar, con ella hablar sobre mi trabajo. Me he encontrado con ella hablar sobre mi trabajo. All right? ¿Qué va a hacer con eso? 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 So see how that goes together. ¿Qué va? And then when you factor in Puerto Rican, sometimes we add L's instead of R's, or Dominican Spanish here, where they would cut the R off and say, ¿qué va a hacer? ¿Qué va a hacer con eso? ¿Qué va a hacer con eso? ¿Qué va a hacer con eso? Or ¿qué va a hacer con eso? So you can see how again, I know I'm kind of going over this over and over, but I really want you to understand why or how it sounds when these are put together. And the better you understand this, the better you'll be able to implement this when you speak, which can help you sound more authentic because it's really going to affect your pronunciation and your intonation. All right? Because if I'm talking to somebody, I don't say, hey, ¿qué va a hacer con eso? ¿Qué va a hacer con eso? I say, ¿qué va a hacer con eso? So when you understand this, you can sound more authentic when you speak. Next example, te he escuchado, pero no te he entendido. Te he escuchado, pero no te he entendido. And then if we're talking Puerto Rican Spanish or Caribbean Spanish, where we cut the D's, te he escuchado, pero no te he entendido. Te he escuchado, pero no te he entendido. The bad news is that there is no trick or shortcut to solve this phonetic problem. But what you can do is tune up your hearing to instinctively learn to differentiate between words. Now, the best way to do this is through what I talk about all the time, consuming comprehensible input. So definitely check out this video. It'll be right here on the screen somewhere. If you're on desktop, you can click it, and that's going to take you to a video I did called How to Start Thinking in Spanish, where I really talk about the importance and the how to consume comprehensible input. The good news is that the next time you're in a conversation and feel like you've been run over by an avalanche of words, you'll know who to blame, the Sinalofa, and you will know that the risk of getting lost is in the vowels.